Hey, welcome back. CPR, Chris, Alex.
Lucas.
That ain't right.
That's James. Yeah, so James is a guy, actually, a little introduction on him. 8 months ago, I was like, hey, bud, let's start up a YouTube thing.
I've been very reliable.
Kind of never got around to it. But, I'm glad he's finally here, and we got some cool stuff going on. Some new ideas in the works.
Thanks for having me.
Indeed. Thanks for coming. New ideas. We're going to be doing sort of I've been toying around with unnamed show. But
come up with a clever name for
Project X.
I was thinking, nerds at a table, something clever like that. That's so.
Chubby dudes talking.
I don't plan to be chubby.
Yeah, well,
I'm planning on not being too much chubby or too much longer. I get laid off here pretty soon. I'll be hitting the gym.
All right.
I'm a liar. But yeah. So, format of this program is basically going to be we're going to be talking about current nerd stuff. Our subject tonight, the main focus of the subject tonight is going to be Punisher on Netflix. Pretty awesome show so far. I was
awesome.
I was digging on it. I expressed to you, James, like when we were watching it, I was texting you as we both were watching it.
Yeah.
And basically, what I thought of it as Death Wish meets The Odd Couple. And
it's a pretty accurate description. We'll get into the dynamics of the show in a few, but we're going to start out with just talking about the overall look and vibe for the show, production and such, maybe some performances, and then we can get into the spoiler stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. So, I guess the most obvious place to start with this would be back in Daredevil Season 2. If you haven't seen Daredevil Season 2, you probably don't want to be watching this yet.
I would highly recommend Daredevil Season 2 before jumping into The Punisher.
Yeah, for sure. So, Frank Castle's dynamic in Season 2 of The Punisher, Season 2 of Daredevil, he's seen more like, what do I want to say? Yeah, like just kind of like a dog in a corner, like just like lashing out at everything and just,
yeah.
For lack of a better term, more fucked up.
I'm smack dab in the middle of my right goddamn mind, and any scumbag, any lowlife, any maggot piece of shit that I put down, I did it because I liked it. Hell, I loved it. I'm sitting here, I'm just itching. I'm itching to do it again. And you think what? You think you're gonna send me to a nut house? Some doctor, they're gonna get me to stop from doing what I want to do?
Even like his logic and the way that he was sort of depicted in that second season was definitely a more primitive version of what we ended up with in this.
Oh yeah.
In this first season of Punisher, there's been like an evolution. Like there's more of a concise.
It was more raw, and then they chiseled it down for the actual show.
I mean, the thought I kind of had with it though is like, it's like so you're waiting for Christmas Day, and you're all excited, and then it's like, oh, well, Christmas Day just happened, and then somebody said, hey, you know what? Christmas actually isn't for another 2 weeks, and it's sort of like he was like, but I just celebrated yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like they jump back into it, and it's like he's not as driven, it seems, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like where we left off and where we pick up are two very different points in that character's sort of progression. Like it seems like picking up in season 2. There's a more of it's almost like he's trying to live a semi-normal life. Like he's still doing what he does, but he's trying to be more under the radar.
Now you're talking about the person you're talking about. Is that Pete or is that Frank?
Pete.
Right. Yeah, Pete. We'll call him Pete.
So that was a stupid fucking.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool.
Hey, your name's Pete Castiglione now.
Sounds cool.
Yeah. Really.
I wouldn't bat an eyelash at, of course.
That actually is one of his alter egos, I think, in the comic book.
I believe so.
Which I do feel that they've remained pretty. Well, they've done a lot of stuff like. Not so much like James Gunn has done with Guardians, where James Gunn's just like, I'm going to pick and choose what I want to put in.
Yeah.
Nobody cares because Guardians is sort of one of those things that's just like not real well known.
Yeah.
So people are just like, they're not nitpicky as much with it. Mm-hmm. With this, they did sort of pick and choose, but for the most part, they've remained pretty honest to the comic.
I think the choices in that pick and choose are pretty right on. Like, especially for a show, it's great to be able to tell a story about a character and hang out with that character, get to know them in the world that they live in over like 12 episodes?
13.
13 episodes?
Yeah.
13 episodes, and they're decently lengthed episodes, and I just think that that's a really cool thing. I wish they would take it a little more seriously and maybe have more of a synergy between what's happening with their Netflix series and the cinematic universe. I think it'd be really exciting to see some of these characters cross over and have appearances. And
yeah.
Like
what should do it on the subcast?
I think they could do that in a cool way that's not like
Defenders.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going to talk. We're not talking about Defenders. We're going to talk about
right now.
About Punisher.
I'm going to get into it later.
That's a whole other can of worms. But overall, I thought that it looked great. It definitely ties in really well with the world that was sort of already established in the second season of Daredevil. It even visits some of the same haunts, like the cemetery and things from season 1 or from season 2 of Daredevil. There's a lot of returning to certain places and stuff, and I think that's really cool to have that sort of continuity that it.
Yeah, I was gonna say
rides,
it's very.
Whereas some of the other series were they felt like they were very separate from each other.
Yeah.
Even though they were referencing each other and even appearing together, sometimes it was a very different feel. Where I feel like this really kept in stride pretty well with Daredevil season 2, but also sort of having its own identity as well. You know? It was respectful to where it starts, and it kind of goes in its own sort of direction, and it expands on that world and the characters that are in it.
Totally.
Yeah.
After exacting revenge on those responsible for the death of his wife and children,
All the things that I'd done.
Frank Castle, played by John Bernthal, uncovers a conspiracy that runs far deeper than New York's criminal underworld.
Memories. They never hurt me. But the past. It's more than memories. It's the devil you sold your soul to. He's coming.
Now known throughout the city as the Punisher, he must discover the truth about the injustices that affect more than his family alone.
He's coming to collect.
Also, he likes to hit a lot of shit with hammers. Netflix, The Punisher.
Is that your nebulizer? Fuck. I need one of those.
That's gonna get cut in.
just the coughing and the smoke. And everyone's like, they're fucking high. High as shit, man.
Yeah, you gotta. Vape Nation.
Yeah, we get it, you vape. Got a goddamn Whitesnake concert in here. Fog.
Oh, fuck. Alright, so, on a scale like rating all the Netflix shows as they are right now, and this is my takeaway for it. I would have to go Daredevil seasons 1 and 2, and then Punisher, then Jessica Jones, then Luke Cage. Unfortunately, Iron Fist, and at the bottom I have to be Defenders.
I have a similar. For me, Daredevil season 2, Punisher, Daredevil season 1, and that could that could be like the same side of one coin, really. From there, jeez, I actually really I enjoyed Jessica Jones. It'd be a toss-up between Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, and then also Iron Fist and Defenders, which is like really kind of disappointing, but the Defenders is a whole other story.
And
yeah,
I don't think that they did it justice. Like, they don't have like a Kevin Feige running around in the background being like Kevin Feige. Kevin
Feige.
Whoever the fuck. They don't have him running. They don't got Kevin running around in the background there telling him, like, hey, no, this continuity doesn't fit with this, and this is all dicked up, and no, here's a vision we have for this. They don't have that. And, honestly, I think Marvel kind of caught lightning in a bottle there, especially with Joss Whedon.
Sure.
I just watched Age of Ultron with the boys earlier today, and I'm looking back at it, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, wow, like, I can understand why people felt like this kind of went off the rails, where it gets sort of like hokey for some people, but at the same time, like, I appreciate it for what it is. And you've often said you're not into the whole comic-y aspect of it. You like the more nitty-gritty type stuff.
Yeah, because it's just like...
Well, what are your thoughts on the Netflix series, personally?
I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think they did a good job. As far as comic, I feel like they're just... A lot of it, they're just trying to churn it out and make money, and some of it gets lost, and I think they did a really good job.
I agree with that.
I feel like they're like, well, we don't have ideas, we're Hollywood.
Tell you what, though.
Comic.
They're no Justice League.
Well, and
you actually have to make money in order to turn
it out. Yeah.
And like what you were just sort of saying there, and what I had said earlier, like with something that's episodic, and you're telling a story over like 10, 11, 12, 13 episodes, like you have a lot of time and a lot of
that's the thing.
You've got a lot of studio space to explore, and when that falls flat, it really falls flat, and there's like no good excuse for it.
See, and that's the thing that I had a problem with.
This is going to turn into more of a critique of Defenders than it is going to.
Well, that's the thing. I had a problem with Iron Fist, where it was like, all the other Netflix shows, including Luke Cage, like everybody had something going on, and even Luke Cage kind of felt like it got drug out a little bit towards the end.
Sure,
but like.
I think
by like the third episode, you're like, oh, hey, here's a whole half an episode about Danny Rand picking up his dry cleaning. Like, like.
So, once I'm done signing all this, then what?
Well, that's why I like the shows, because they have time to expand on. What are 12 episodes, an hour long?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You get a 2.5 hour movie compared to all that time to let the
If
story go and build characters
if when
and
you're
stuff.
done and you don't feel satisfied with the character, or feel like there's just like still like just sort of like where you're just kind of like it shouldn't feel empty after 13 freaking episodes.
Yeah.
Like, you should be like, I totally get this.
Yeah, everything.
And it's set, and it felt like, sometimes it was strong. There were points in those last two installments prior to Punisher. It felt like there were some things that were very strong, and it's like, okay, all right.
And other stuff felt very deflated.
It got wishy-washy.
Yeah.
And,
well, remember, I was bitching when that came out. I was like, oh, man, Defenders is only going to be 8 episodes. What the hell? And in retrospect,
I don't know that I could have handled 13
episodes. It could have been 4.
Yeah.
No. I just feel like, as far as like overall pacing, storytelling, character development, like Daredevil seasons 1 and 2, Punisher, even Jessica Jones, I feel like did a great job at developing the characters, like for real. And like you had characters like, I don't know, like the whole sort of roller coaster you go through with Kilgrave, where like you hate him and you kind of like him.
Purple
like,
Man, like he honestly, my biggest problem with Marvel is they have like these villains that they don't ever flesh out. They're more worried about fleshing out the heroes.
Yeah.
And like you and I just, oh my god, we're gonna go off on
like we are gonna go off the crazy train. It's gonna happen here.
So okay, like you and I were talking about the 10 rings and like right from the beginning. From the very beginning with Iron Man.
Yeah, the very first Iron Man they played.
They've had the 10 rings have been placed there, and it's almost like Kevin Feige came along and was like, hey, you know what? I'm in charge now. We're not doing the 10 rings. You know, that shit is done. We're not doing it. We're doing Hydra. And I really kind of feel that we got Ben Kingsley was amazing.
He was in my opinion, probably one of the most promising villains in the cinematic universe that didn't happen.
Some people call me a terrorist. I consider myself a teacher. My name's Trevor Slattery.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
So the show starts out with
Frank Castle doing what he does.
Oh, dude, that
opening sequence is pretty badass.
Well, the whole thing, like, I
cut
love
that in.
I love the cheese. I love the cheesy '80s aspect of it, like the cheesy '80s action film aspect of like, bad guy is in another country on the other side of the river, which I actually happen to know El Paso, and the shot that he made technically probably could be made because you can see into Juarez from El Paso, and I mean the guy goes upstairs, he's getting a beige, and
it's in a compromising situation.
He goes to lean back, and then you just see, bang, his head fucking explodes like a watermelon, and then they zoom all the way the fuck back out the path of the bullet, and there's Frank, and like in the beginning of that other scene, they show
just cuts
Juarez.
It cuts back to him and him disengaging that round out of the chamber, and then into
Juarez, Mexico, and then it zooms all the way back out to him, and then it's El Paso, USA, and I'm like,
yeah,
wow.
I like how they did the delay too. Like you hear the shot, and then you don't all of a sudden, boom, like because it had so far to travel.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, you're talking 2 or 3 miles.
Yeah.
Well, probably 2 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Pretty explosive start.
So
to the series.
Yeah. So they do that, and then all of a sudden,
so intended.
They jump into. Frank is now got.
I wish we had a more clear passage of time. Like, is this a few months down the road?
Yeah.
Is this a year down the road? I wish
I wanted
that
to
was.
say it said 6 months later.
It's really cool because the show puts you in this position of being sort of a voyeur, and you're watching these things unfold, and you do not feel bad at all watching these people get what you, as the viewer, are like kind of cheering for.
Yeah.
In a way, you are cheering for a sociopath to murder these people.
They're looking at the most horrible elements of society, and the parts that everybody inside deep down, which is like, yeah, if I was in that situation, I would, and insert here, and it's like my grandmother. My grandmother's 89 years old. Love her to death. She absolutely loves the Death Wish series, and really, Punisher is pretty much Death Wish. And so like, they take you and they show you all these horrible fucking people and show you just what they're capable of. So that when it does come time to just deal justice, nobody gives a shit what happens to them because
it feels like justice.
Yeah.
You're like, absolutely.
Street justice.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong here.
Yeah.
Move along.
Pretty much.
You're pretty much going along with it, like, absolutely, totally. An intriguing addition to this sort of Marvel Netflix world that we're getting dished out to us is the addition of the Micro character, which is a character from the comics.
Yes.
They switch up his origin and his function.
Microchip.
A little bit, but let's talk about this character a little bit.
Well, he's well established as being he's pretty savvy. He's very computer oriented.
He's also very connected to the plot that's revolving around Frank Castle, Pete Castelloni, and old Pete. Like he is very much so connected just as much as Castle to this whole plot that sort of unravels throughout the season, which I think is interesting because they both play a part.
Yeah.
They both have a role to. They've both played roles in the events that have led up to where they meet.
Yeah.
And like the context of how they meet, because you have two men that are pretty much dead men meeting.
I was going to ask, what do you think of the actor that they picked for Micro?
Oh, I thought he was excellent.
I thought he was cool. I enjoyed seeing
good.
him when he was on the screen. I enjoyed seeing. There was something that did throw me off a little bit, and that was very early on in these characters' meetings. Micro is in a compromising situation where he is naked and strapped to a chair, and that's no thing. We don't bat an eyelash at that. But later on, there's a reference made to Micro needing to change his clothes or something, and Frank gets all kind of uncomfortable about it.
No. He's drunk.
Yeah.
It's right after they kiss.
Oh, he was talking about.
He's like, hey, I don't want to spoil it for you or anything, but I'm really hung. I'm hung like a fucking moose.
Yeah.
And he goes, here, I'll show you. And he gets over there, and Frank's like, whoa, buddy, come on now, put it away.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of funny that, like, obviously he would be well aware of this at that point.
It was a good way to have them bond, though.
You want to hear something funny? What's that? I'm hung like a moose. Jesus Christ. Oh, you think I'm kidding? Frank, I'm weirdly, seriously, really well endowed. You must be proud. Kind of spooky. All right, you laugh. Yeah. You laugh.
Oh, for Christ's sake, get the hell out of here. What's the matter with you? What are you doing?
It's like a weird cockle situation there.
Well, it is, dude. It's really screwed up. But, I mean, at the same time,
like, as you're watching
it,
as it's happening, like, honestly, as a viewer watching the show, I got a little bit uncomfortable, like, oh, man.
So did I.
Like, because it's
well,
like...
you pick yourself, you throw yourself right into these characters.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what I thought was...
That is, that's something worth taking a second to mention, is the show does a really good job at bringing you in and putting you in that character for a second and sort of without asking, you're kind of like, what would I do in that situation? With each character.
Because of...
the villains and otherwise.
Because of Micro, though, there is like this underlying tone of voyeurism.
Oh, yeah.
There is.
With the whole... Yeah.
With him watching his family.
Yeah.
And you do kind of have that feel like there's some voyeurism to it. But something I just thought of that I hadn't really thought of until you just mentioned it. You do realize that Frank, realizes what's going on and he treats it very respectfully. And I didn't realize why. I thought he was just pulling the whole, like, no, I'm going to be a loner, like thing at the end in the final episode where he's like, hey, why don't you come on in for Thanksgiving dinner?
Yeah.
But really, he's doing it out of respect to him because it's like, dude, your wife had the hots for me.
Yeah.
I get it.
That's an interesting perspective.
It would be weird.
He did kind of mess up the dinner thing a couple times with her. So
I felt that...
Why stray from the routine,
That whole intro of relationship between his wife and Frank was just...
I thought it was very unique, and like it's
at first it was just kind of odd though, like
while it's happening,
hits her with her car, brings them inside, and like
right.
It seems a little forced, but
I should call the cops would be your normal reaction.
Yeah. Oh, come in. Oh, you're gonna fix my garage door.
Here, why don't you make me some coffee and fix my garage door?
Yeah, it was in real world, nobody's that friendly. I don't think.
Again, I feel like there's some elements that are very much like comic book plot.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though, too, with Frank, and the whole thing you're supposed to get behind with Frank is that Frank is a very old-fashioned guy.
Yeah.
Frank is bring flowers to meet mom.
Yeah.
Kind of old-fashioned guy, and then his profession is what threw him into being like a fucking animal, and changed his whole perspective about who he is.
Yeah.
And it
he is the tiger from the Holy Diver Dio song. He is. It's really cool.
Now that song.
It's really... You're welcome.
Hold it tight.
How many times did I get you with planning songs tonight?
Twice.
So what is really cool about this whole sort of weird, cockle situation is like you very easily fall into like you can see each individual person in this triangle's perspective,
and no one's at fault,
and justify all of their perspectives. Like you're like, I can understand where she's at. She's lonely. She's got these kids. It's not easy.
He's not a bad looking dude.
He's not a bad looking dude, and like he's coming in and he's doing these things, and like,
and he's doing it out of respect to her, to Micro,
right? He's looking out for her. He's looking out for the family because Micro is not able to do that. But he's able to look in on him, but he's not able to intervene quite the way that Frank can.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you can't help but feel like, in the bottom of your heart for the Micro character, because he's watching this happen and he's seeing this. He's an intelligent man. He sees what's happening with this chemistry with his wife, and he knows his wife, and that just like, it's one of those things where...
And it was like one of those things too where I was torn, like, that was an awfully long fucking kiss. And then I was like thinking like, well, Frank hasn't known a lot of comfort, since his family left. So like, it took an awful lot of willpower, even knowing that he was being watched, to stop.
Yeah.
And it's one of those
he could have done whatever he could have totally could have hit that.
Oh yeah.
And
I mean, she was pretty much throwing herself out. She's like, "Hey, let's have some wine. Here's my enchiladas."
and then again, there's.
And then he comes back and he goes, "Here, man, I got these." He's like, "I know what they are." And he threw them on the fucking desk.
Yeah,
goddamn enchiladas.
But then there again is like one of those like magical moments about the show is, you have this guy that you just watched stick a broken sledgehammer up some guy's pooper, pretty much. You just watch this like 20, like this happens 5 minutes chronologically speaking before this whole thing happens, and you're like, he's got a heart of gold. You know what I mean? He's a
knock-up guy.
Good old American apple pie.
He's a real stand-up guy.
Stand-up fella.
Well,
I think it's really cool that a show can kind of.
Well, that whole
present
scene,
that.
though, too, like, immediately following it goes back to the Odd Couple part of it. And, there's all these little different parts where, like, they're complimenting each other on each other's cooking.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was not aware that you get botulism from eating canned food, but I did learn that from this show, so this show's been a learning experience for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was like, you increase your chance of botulism if you don't heat that up. And he just kept eating the can anyways. Like,
was it because he was eating it with a knife, or was it just because?
No, it's because he's eating it out of the can.
Yeah.
What was he eating?
He was eating like
was it
Chef
beans?
Boyardee or something.
I didn't know you could.
Probably ravioli, man.
Dog food.
Chili mac.
Barfaroni beans.
But you got that, and then he was like. Then Frank's cooking his Vietnamese fermented rice, and he's like, "God damn, that's good."
Yeah.
And he's like, he's like, "You made this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I made it."
Yeah.
And they're both. He's like, "Yeah, I can cook too, motherfucker."
Yeah.
I don't not only just kill people and hit on your wife, but I can cook.
And that adds a whole other dynamic to these characters, because here you have two men connected by this like horrible thing, and you have this uncomfortable situation unfolding with the one guy's wife with this other guy, and what brings them together? Food.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Food ends up becoming the bond builder.
Yeah.
But you know what tripped me out is the part where he's talking about, he's like, "Oh hey man, you got this guitar," and he's like, "Yeah, I got it. Figuring I'd learn how to play," and he was like, "Well, yeah, did you?" And he's like, "No, you know what? I figured out I suck." And then later on, like 4 episodes later, you see him and he's sitting there just finger picking away, going nuts. Like,
goddamn,
yeah, you
Joe
suck.
Satriani.
yeah, dude, he was fucking rad. I was sitting there laughing my ass off.
It's like he had 4 hands.
But that's the thing. You take something. This show has so much well-placed humor.
Yeah.
And it's something that is so gruesome.
It's
and the humor feels like it is organic and it belongs
Yeah, it's
there.
not.
Yeah.
Episode 7.
Well, it just flows, man.